The Biden administration altering its plan for the IRS to snoop on bank accounts to find tax cheats. Instead of monitoring annual transactions of at least $600, they're upping it to $10,000.
Senator Joe Manchin, he has now publicly said he came to the president directly and said, this IRS plan, I don't know who wrote this. This is wrong.
I said, Mr. President, I don't know who put this out and how it got screwed up. Do you understand how messed up that is? To think that Uncle Sam's going to be watching Trent and what it does for bankers and this and that. I told him, I said, Mr. President, I don't know what happened. This cannot happen. It's screwed up. So he says, I think Joe's right on that. So I think that one's going to be gone.
You cannot afford to lose a vote in the United States Senate if you're the Democrats. And he has now said he will not go along with this snooping provision. And Jordan, I think the thing that makes this even more significant is he said this directly to the President of the United States. And what did he say the President responded to him? He said he thinks that the President responded to him. I think Joe is correct on this.
This is fundamentally un-American, David. This notion that you've done nothing wrong, I've done nothing wrong. You know, my AC repair guy, the truck drivers that are having problems right now with transportation because they have more than even $10,000 of transactions. Maybe they have direct deposit. Maybe they have some IRAs. I don't know. But those people are all now going to have federal agents snooping into everything they're doing, trying to find crimes.
The difference, I think, where we have Joe Manchin now is that he is not just a single opposition to an idea that ultimately his vote can't stop anything. Now his vote is the vote that is most key.
To defeat this IRS snooping provision, you know who we need? We need Joe Manchin. So despite the fact that I don't trust him on a number of provisions, I still need him to do the right thing when he goes down to the White House and talks to the president. And the result of that conversation that we have today, yes, we're going to have to hold both their feet to the fire, but Jordan, we're in a better position today than we were yesterday because of that conversation.
Democrats say they're nearing the finish line in negotiations over Mr. Biden's domestic agenda.
The more I hear about the details, the less likely I think that anybody even knows exactly what this framework is, let alone can agree to it.
We're all hoping on that bipartisan infrastructure bill, Becky, that we've been talking about for a long time, which is so important. It came out of the Senate in August with 69 votes, all 50 Democrats and 19 Republicans. That's everything from water infrastructure to roads, bridges, and tunnels, including the Gateway Tunnel between New York and New Jersey, the train tunnel, as well as climate resiliency and broadband. It's a historic once-in-a-century package.
What we need to look at is what's in the bill. When you look at that, there's some very disturbing aspects.
When they talk infrastructure here, they are talking about the $1.7 trillion plan. There was some bipartisan support for this so that they don't have to have every Democrat, I guess. Where do you think this stands there? Are we actually going to see a vote on this?
I'm holding the 3 pages of framework in my hands that President Biden has released. 2 of them are bullet points for expenditures. The third one is the proposed revenue that will be generated. You have to read revenue as tax increases. Jordan, this is why we said several months ago that if they just brought up a clean infrastructure bill, they could probably get it moved. They could probably get it moved in a bipartisan fashion. But as soon as you move to the reconciliation process, Jordan, that is an intentional decision to go it alone. It's an intentional decision to block the minority party out of the room, and you have to get it done with your own votes.
And what they're trying to do, they're trying to push this through as if somehow in the last election they obtained significant majorities in both houses of Congress. They did not. They can only afford to lose, Stan can correct me, 3 or 4 votes in the House, and the Senate is 50-50. And what they're trying to do is radically transform the country.
Do they even know what they're going to be voting on in this if they vote today?
The answer to that is no, Jordan.
That should not be acceptable in Washington for either party on any kind of legislation. They need to at least know what they are doing.
Over 1.7 million undocumented immigrants were apprehended at the border over the last year.
It is the highest number of illegal border crossings and contacts ever reported in a year. The highest number.
Do you have plans to visit the southern border?
I've been there before, and I haven't. I mean, I know it well. I guess I should go down, but the whole point of it is I haven't had a whole hell of a lot of time to get down.
Well, you're the President of the United States. Mobility and your ability to travel is unrestricted. And so this idea that, well, I just don't have time to go, when it's the highest number ever.
More than 2/3 of the Republicans in Congress have been to the border just this year. So we'd like to sit down with him if he's too busy to get there. Because the challenge is what is happening. It's making every city in America a border city.
We're not asking him to go to New Zealand or Australia. We're not asking him to go to outer Mongolia. We're asking him to get on Air Force One and to fly an hour and a half or 2 hours to the southern border and spend some time there with the Border Patrol agents.
We need immediately to get the federal government to fund through DHS and the DOD, the National Guard, to surge guardsmen to the border, assist Border Patrol, ICE, and Immigration Services to stop this. It has gone from a crisis to a complete emergency.
If you communicate that your border is open and porous, and there's a good chance that if you come to the border illegally, you will end up being allowed to stay, guess what's going to happen? Those people are going to come.
Why now?
I think it's the best time.
The best time. Because of the administration? Because of Joe Biden.
And they know that he's not going to do anything about it. Look at this 1,734,686 Southwest border encounters, and more coming, folks.
Now the administration is considering paying illegal immigrant families separated at the southern border $450,000 per person.
It's like a bank robber who robs a bank, who takes the money, and then you not only give him back the money, but you give him a reward for robbing the bank, and you give him a job at the bank as a teller.
If you're an American citizen who is killed in a war defending your country, our government promises to send your family $100,000. That is less than a quarter of what Joe Biden intends to give illegal aliens for the inconvenience of being deported.
When a service member is killed or dies, there are very limited amounts of financial compensation. We are talking about giving each child and each set of parents $450,000 each for breaking the law and illegally entering the United States.
Remember, every single month for 6 months in a row, the illegal encounters on the border went up. March was the highest on record till April. April was the highest till May. May was the highest till June. June was the highest till July, when 212,000 illegals came across our border.
Right.
This is the situation. And now we're going to give you money if you do it. Makes no sense.
My first reaction when I hear about paying this much money to people who broke the laws and who were somehow inconvenienced is to think about all of the people that have been waiting in line to get into this country. The American people give 1 million people a year citizenship in this country. And to pay people for jumping the line is so outrageous and anti-American. Every person should stand up against this.
They're once again getting $450,000 a piece from your tax receipts. That's more than some of the 9/11 victims got.
I actually care about the people inside this country, and I'm protecting them when I say don't cut the line, don't reward people, and don't create incentives for more of this to happen.
Tonight, the Supreme Court has agreed to fast-track challenges to the strict new abortion law in Texas. The justices will hear arguments on November 1st.
And then December 1st is the case out of Mississippi, which is the heartbeat case, 15-week abortion ban. So we've got a month where there's going to be so much attention by the justices. They're going to not have one, but two different bites at the apple of Roe versus Wade.
It is rare that the Supreme Court would, as it did in this case, decide to hear arguments while bypassing lower courts that were already considering the Texas dispute, indicating that the justices have deemed the matter of high public importance and requiring immediate review.
Both cases are challenging the constitutionality of Roe versus Wade and whether or not the court got their reasoning wrong, which, by the way, as you know, Andy, people on the left who support abortion have said for years that the actual reasoning behind the case was inaccurate.
One way or the other, whether it comes out of the Mississippi case or whether it comes out of the Texas case, I think in the crosshairs of the Supreme Court is going to be the continued viability of Roe versus Wade.
The case will be heard in just 10 days. The expediency of the case is unusual, as the law has been in effect for only a few weeks. The justices will decide whether the federal government has the right to sue over the law.
What's the ACLJ doing? Well, Friday, the Supreme Court set a very quick deadline for briefing. We have until Wednesday to file our brief. We will be doing that as the American Center for Law and Justice, so you will be represented in this Texas case.
There are complicated questions about how to challenge the law that has prevented
the Supreme Court so far from actually reaching the question of whether this law is permissible.
Is it at a heartbeat? Is that at conception? Is that at 15 weeks? And that's the issue I think that the court is going to have to address. But it's an issue that should be something that the states get to decide when they get to protect a baby's life.